As a young sales rep, I can tell you I didn't like tension. A lot of salespeople don't like tension either. They don't want to riff. They don't want to have any difficulties. And because of that fear, man, I'm telling you, you're missing out on opportunities. On today's episode, I'm going to share with you some thoughts and ideas that I'm seeing firsthand and that I'm learning. And hopefully they can help you too. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And I'm out traveling. I've been going to conferences over the past couple of weeks and just been on the road. But I want to drop this episode. I had the opportunity to be able to sit down with reps. I've had the opportunity to coach sellers over the years. I've had the opportunity to consult with companies. And I've had the opportunity to just talk to other leaders. One problem that we're seeing right now is that right in this day and age we're in, leads are absolutely important. And they're buyers that are they're going to take time and they're going to make as they make decisions on deals. And I'm not saying people ain't buying, like people buying stuff. The challenge though is that because people are more cognizant of what they're purchasing and the investments that they're committing to, it's important that we make sure those deals and those people that we're working with are like all of them are good. They're good to go. We can't leave anything to chance. And some of the things that I find is that salespeople, because they're afraid of a little bit of attention, oftentimes I've been there. I'm not going to tell you something that I haven't been there with. I've been there because here's the thing. I'm like, man, I don't want the person to get offended. I don't want them to get mad. I don't want them to, to not want to talk to me again or whatnot. So I try to keep it safe. Because of that, trying to keep it safe, I don't have any tension at all, or I figure those things are bad. Tension is not bad. When you're flying a kite, I was at the beach with my family a few weeks ago, and we're flying the kite. Maybe it's over a month now, but we're at the beach and we're flying a kite, and you have the tension in that string and that kite. That was a good tension. That's a good thing. That tension allows for the kite to stay up in the air. If I didn't have any tension, that kite would fall. The wind is bracing against it, and it allows for that to happen. I flew here from flying across the country, airplanes. You have A air and B air. If you go study aeronautics, if you study about flying, there you go. You realize that they have the two types of air. One's pushing it down, one's pushing it up. So with that being said, those tension allow that plane to be able to stay up and to fly. When it comes to selling, you need that tension for the deal to be able to progress or to fly through properly. What I find, however, is because of that fear of causing any type of offense or ever getting a client to be, unhappy with us, we don't do any pushback. So I'm going to give you some specific examples now what I'm talking about. You're talking to a prospect, and I had a situation recently with a client that I was listening on one of their calls. You have a situation where you're talking to a client, the client or prospect. The prospect tells you that they're looking at some other vendors as well. Now, sales rep, because they're afraid of thinking, I know exactly what happened in the sales rep's head, and also I've done this too, because the prospect said that, they probably were just incompetent or ignorant to it. They didn't pay attention and know that they'll listen for it. And I've been around a block once or twice. But oftentimes, what I find these people who are good sellers is that they don't want to ruffle any feathers. So they feel that it would be uncomfortable if they were to ask the prospect who are some of the vendors that they were looking at. In that situation, that's a perfect situation where a little bit of tension is okay. If the buyer got uncomfortable with that, telling you that, then that's a red flag there for me. Like I want them to be able to, be open. They might say, I'm not ready to divulge any of that yet, but you can probably start figuring out who are some of those people in the industry. But in my experience, though, when I do ask those questions, they're more than willing to tell me who those people are. So I want to diffuse that, I guess, at the beginning. Like, yeah, there's potential that somebody could say, yeah, I'm not comfortable telling you who the vendors are. But a lot of times, more often than not, the buyer or the prospect or this potential buyer is willing to tell you and let you know who they're working with or who they've had the conversation with. The problem that I find with that issue, because salespeople are afraid of the tension, is that now the sales rep is going into this situation in a hunky-dory thinking that they're good. They told them at the end they're going to send them over the proposal and whatnot. There is no proposal review scheduled. Again, another avenue for a little bit of tension. But the thing is, because of this, there's a high chance that this deal won't fly. that this deal actually won't progress because there's so many, because now there's another variable where things could go wrong. So look for those areas. Another area where I find that you can have some healthy tension is to go deeper in the question, in the follow-up questions. It's such an easy thing. Tell me more about that. When you ask a buyer might tell you a situation. Tell me a little bit more about that situation. Yeah, we're looking to get XYZ, let's say HR solution, because right now it's, we want to be able to streamline our onboarding. Well, sales rep might hear, oh, that's a pain. Let me go ahead and do that. They might say, tell me how long you've been doing this. Why is it a why? They might say, well, tell me, how long is this taking you right now, and so forth. And and they might get some of the surface level issues, but I want to get deeper. I want to get deeper into that problem. Walk me through it. What's that process like? How does that impact you? Why change right now, though? Like, it sounds like things have been going pretty well. When you start asking these questions, go a little bit deeper, you're seen as a consultant. And again, a good consultant has tension. I mean, I'm not saying they're not contention. I want to clarify that contention is arguments and fight, but tension is where the buyer gets put in, sometimes in a situation where they have to think, where they have to go a little bit deeper in their thought, and it's an uncomfortable situation. Questions. I mean, sometimes sales is uncomfortable, right? I mean, you're changing. Change is not always easy. Let me clarify that. Change isn't always easy. So if a buyer is changing, there's going to be need for where you might have those tension, and it may be challenging at times for the prospect to make that change. So it's totally normal and it's totally fine. I'll give you an example again, like when I go work out. Like if I don't work out for like a month and I start changing my behavior from sitting down and chilling and flying and now to going back to working out and running and doing some hits, some high intensity workouts. Now, those things tend to hurt. I have tension in my muscles and I have tension, but it's not a bad thing because I know that's a sign of a good thing, that I'm feeling the burn. I'm feeling the muscles grow, or the tear. And I'm not right. Your muscles are growing and improving and so forth. The point is, this is fine. But there's another area too where I find that there's a little bit of tension when it comes to objections. When a buyer asks you an objection, sometimes the seller jumps right in and then they start trying to solve the objection, as opposed to figuring out why they're asking that objection in the first place. I mean, clearly you can definitely answer it, but go a little bit deeper. Sometimes they may be asking the wrong question, and it's your job to be able to say that. So the buyer might say, like, yeah, I just think, this is maybe too expensive right now, or I think it's I think it may be out of my price range. Well, you can go ahead and try to give a discount. You can try to, do the simple little objection handling. But let's go deeper and figure out why that's the case. Tell me a little bit more. You say the budget, and you mentioned before that you're looking at some XYZ. Is it the comparison to their investment? Is that why you feel that way? Like, get deeper in it, and don't be afraid of asking some of these questions that help you to go deeper in that, because the buyer might tell you. And then you might even say, you know what, I don't feel that I feel you're asking the wrong question, or I feel you're saying I feel it's the wrong thing you're bringing up right now, Donald. What I think you want to look more at is if this is going to work and how this might impact you. I think that's the root of this, not necessarily the investment. And obviously, some cases they just don't have the budget. But I think for most part, when you find yourself in a budget situation or one of those types of objection, usually if you're a good seller and if you have the confidence, you've been around the block, you can ask some of these questions, you create a little bit of tension that allows the buyer to say, you know what, Donald, I think you're right with that. And yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm making the right decision. Risk is an important thing, man, and I think many of us don't pay attention to that when we're doing our discos or when we're going through that sales process. So look for those areas in that sales process, whether it's like when it's the objection, or whether it's when you're you're listening and you're glossing over certain key statements or challenges because you're afraid that they might get offended, or perhaps it's just like you know they they're looking at one way, and you're clearly know that's the wrong way, and you want to challenge them. A little tension is not going to be a bad thing. I mean, there's so many different areas, so many different ways that you can have the tension in your sales process or in some of these discos or some of your meetings. But I just want to make sure I clarify that, and just to help you understand, tension isn't a bad thing. And it's not what you say. I've always talked about this on a pod. One of my debate coach in high school, she always used to say, it's not what you say, but how you say it. So if there's an issue, I can bring it up. I can preface before I ask that, just tell them, hey, is it okay if I ask you a question? Is it okay if I clarify something? There's something that came up. There's something that based on the last statement, there's something that triggered in my mind. I want to ask you that to get clarification. Is it okay for you to do that? Now, when you do that, it makes such a big difference because now again you're coming across as a consultant rather than an order taker. Come on, man, we can go all day on this, but I would. So my final thing to you is look for ways that you can have healthy tension in that process, and don't be afraid of embracing those healthy tension. That's going to help you to be able to progress that deal. And do not, for the love of everything that's holy, do not end the conversation without a clear next step. You got to have an appointment. You got to have when you're going to do the follow up. These buyers oftentimes don't necessarily know how to purchase your product or services, so guide them. You're the guide. You just help them to understand. Like, okay, great. So here's what I would say we can do then. Let me know which one of these days work better for you. Can we set up a time to talk on Thursday, or do you want to set up a time to talk next Monday? I have some time in the afternoon or in the morning. What works better for you? They'll tell you a time. They'll give you one of those options. And if they don't, just tell them, just to make sure that I know life is going to get busy. I just want to pencil something in. If you need to cancel, totally fine. But give them that idea. Give them that understanding. Hope this makes sense. If it does, go ahead and drop me a message on LinkedIn, Donald C. Kelly. Donald C. Kelly. As always, this podcast is dedicated to two things. One, helping you build 3 to 5x your sales pipeline, build that pipeline. And two, helping you convert your pipeline. We want to help you to close twice as many deals as you've done before. I've been on a road traveling, so you're getting these mobile podcast episodes. But I just want you to know that this is something that I'm passionate for. I really want you to thrive and succeed. As always, I want you to raise your level of thinking. I want you to go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching.